Hi, Richard O'Connor. The website is rock@rocksongs.com. That's ROC without the K, at rocsongs.com. There is a link, but it doesn't come up sometimes on the mobile if you're coming to me by mobile telephone, but it'll be there on the laptop or whatever. I just came back. I had a great swim. I live in a place where about 350 yards from my door there's an outdoor heated swimming pool year round. And I've worked out that it costs me about £2.50 a day, maybe £2.75 if I go every day, which I do when I'm in London, which is most of the time. So unless I'm really ill or whatever, swimming is a part of my day, and I do 1K a day, which is 40 lengths of this 25-meter pool. And I thoroughly recommend it. And so if you're fortunate enough to live within walking distance of a club that has an outdoor heated pool, God has blessed you. I'm going to sing you a song called I Know Whom I Have Believed. But before I do that, I just wanted to share with you this. This is scripture. It comes from, this Daily Light, which I keep on recommending to you. You're going to think that I'm fairly boring if I carry on like this, but I'm only boring in the sense that I believe this is really important, that we have an anchor for the soul, and if you don't have an anchor for the soul, when the storms come, you sink. And sometimes that is a real disaster, and you can't recover. I have an anchor for the soul, and I'm not going to sink. I'm going to stay stable when the storms come, and weather them. Listen to this. I think this comes from. I think this comes from Kings. 1 Kings, this is the Old Testament I'm talking about. This is a selection of readings from Old and New Testament. You have a morning reading and an evening reading. You can get this online or whatever. It's called Daily Light. Thoroughly recommend it. This is what part of this says. We had a prayer meeting this morning, actually, with our neighbors. Isn't that great to live on a street where people actually have faith and can meet together and pray? We only pray weekly. I mean, obviously I pray pretty much every minute of every day because I'm that kind of guy. I just need connection with God. But it's great because it says here, where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, I am there with them, and I will be with you always. You do kind of feel like a power increase when you're with others who have faith that God is a God of love, and He sent His Son in the form of Jesus Christ to save us and to impart this incredible wisdom and mercy and grace to us. Anyway, God in heaven, that we've never seen and can't even imagine, says, the heavens... actually this isn't God, this is King Solomon, okay? Have you ever heard of King Solomon? Solomon's Mines or whatever? Lots of, it's in our journey in the Western world anyway. King Solomon was probably the most wealthy king of Israel. He was David's son. David was a king of Israel. And the David and the Solomon era were probably the pinnacle of Israel in terms of when they had a kingship. Before that, it was... they were in slavery in Egypt, and then they came into the promised land, and that came with a whole lot of problems that I'm not going to go into. And then there was the time of the judges, where at the end of the day, every man did what he wanted to do, and it was a nightmare. That's the time of Samson and Delilah and lots of other crazy people who went out and killed 1,000 with an ox bow or an ox jaw. I think one of them did that. There was a lot of extraordinary people. Anyway, Solomon built the temple in Jerusalem. Up till then, the presence of God had been represented and was centrifuged around the ark, which is where they kept the Ten Commandments written on the 2 tablets of stone, and they were in a tabernacle, which is basically a tent that they dismantled and re-established every time they moved around the desert. Then when they entered the promised land, it was still in there. And then what happened? Then David became king, and he wanted to build a temple for God, a permanent residence, if you like, for God, a permanent center of energy of God, the God of Israel. And but he wasn't allowed to do it because he was a man of war, and he committed a lot of crimes, and in the sense that, he had a lot of blood on his hands. And plus there's that story of his, who was it called? Bathsaida, I think, who was this girl he saw naked in a bath from his palace rooftop. And fell in love and just needed to, be with her. So he had her brought to him and everything. So anyway, he just went totally off the rails in a lot of ways, but he always said sorry to God and said, please forgive me, I know I'm a sinner. And he never put up a defense on that. He accepted God's judgment on him. One of those was that he had too much blood on his hands to build the temple. He designed it, he organized it, he got all the equipment in, he built the relationships with all the people that had the wood in Lebanon and everything else. And he had the manpower organized, and Solomon took over. Another very complicated political story. But when Solomon took over, one of the things he said was this: wasn't that a long way around to get here? The heavens, he said to God, even the highest heavens cannot contain you. How much less this temple I have built. And this is another scripture, and it says, for this is what the high and lofty one says. That's God, of course. He who lives forever, whose name is holy. We've kind of lost that sort of awe, haven't we, of God, the holiness of God. I live in a high and holy place. This is a good bit. But also with him or her, with those, let's try to get politically correct, with those who are contrite and lowly in spirit. Lowly is not a very used word these days, but it means you don't put yourself in a position that you don't deserve. You put yourself at the back of the queue and wait to be appointed somewhere. So, I live in a high and holy place, but also with him who is contrite and lowly, new word, in spirit, to revive the spirit of the lowly, okay, and to revive the heart of the contrite. 2 secrets this afternoon. It is afternoon, it is 5:55. I must take my heart pill in a minute. Two secrets if you want to get close to God. You need to be contrite, not proud. It's the opposite of proud. You need to be humble, and you need to know your place before God. Now, most of us, I'm probably talking to you and you're thinking, God, this guy's just so full of, you say the word. But, this is what I really believe. I believe that where we've all gone terribly wrong in this world is that we've put ourselves above God. We've sidelined him, our creator. And so we are in a hell of a mess. There you go. Did you remember any of those? The last one was Isaiah 57:15. Isaiah was an extraordinary prophet from the Old Testament days. The Bible is really worth a read, even if you hate, God, or you don't know about God, or you want to find out about God. I don't think there's anybody in the world that would say that the Bible is rubbish. They would say, they would accord, everybody who reads it accords it a certain amount of honor. They may not believe everything it says, or they may say, but. That's the main thing people say when they read the Bible. except me, because I'm totally won over, and I believe Jesus walked on water and healed the sick and raised the dead and rose again on the third day, so that I can be here before you and try to communicate my faith and have some hope of saving people who really are going in the wrong direction. Anyway, I'm going to sing this song. It's called I Know Whom I Have Believed. It is scripture. It is taken from the second letter that St. Paul, have you heard of St. Paul? Look him up on Google. He wrote this letter. They've got it somewhere, and actually they've got a copy, but a close copy, and many copies actually. And it was written to the churches in the Middle East at the time. And so this is a second letter to Timothy, who was kind of like his son, really, in God. I mean, he was like his son in the Lord, if you like. He was training him up to take over from him, which is great advice for anybody who's got a company or a life that they want to hand on to their children or anything else. So he was training this guy up, and he was called Timothy, and this is his second letter to him, and it comes from chapter 1, verse 12. I'm also quoting in this from Romans 8. Romans 8, you need to read Romans 8. It is the Himalayas of the New Testament. Absolutely extraordinary writings of Paul, the Apostle Paul, whose life was beyond extraordinary, very challenging for all of us. And so I'm quoting in the second part, we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him. It's a wonderful thing that he's saying there. Romans 8, verse 28. So, and it goes on. Anyway, I'll sing you the song. That's enough about that. Thank you for still listening to this. I can't believe that you're still with me. Yeah, I've got a plectrum now. If you're still with me, maybe there's some hope for you. Isn't that a terrible judgmental thing to say? See, I'm not completely healed. I know whom I have believed. I'm convinced that he is able to guard what I have entrusted to him for that day. Again, I know whom I have believed, and I'm convinced that he is able to guard what I have entrusted to him for that day. We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his great purpose. For those God foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the likeness of his Son. And those he predestined, he has also called. And those he has called, well, he has justified. And those he justified, he also glorified. We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his great purpose. We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his great purpose. and those he has called, he is justified, and those he's justified, he also glorified. So I say, I know whom I have believed. I'm convinced that he is able to guard what I have entrusted to him for that day. I mean, for me, this is absolutely amazing stuff. For you, you may listen to it and think, yeah, that's kind of nice, but, you know, I really don't understand the words, and you know, I prefer, you know, some more beaty thing. I can do this in a beaty version. Actually, if you go on to the website and you go to this album, which is Between Ourselves, with a lovely picture of Jay and I, and here's a more. So that's Jay and I, and what does that say? It says, "Yes, God, you do it. You get us through it." There, and that's what he's done so far. So good, and I know whom I have believed is on there. And if you click into the website and you click onto the page for Between Ourselves, the album, and then you click on it, it's down there somewhere. It is. Does it really matter? It's there. Oh yeah, track 11, and there's a different version of that on there. And anybody can do any of these songs in any way they want, or throw them out the window, whatever you want to do. But this is wonderful thing. You know, it says that for those God foreknew, he also predestined. So God has known everything from the beginning to the end. He knows everything. I'm surprised he's not bored in a way, but he wants to outwork his creation. And he wants the beings that he's made, he's given us free will. We can choose whether to go with him or whether to go from him. And he's given us this world. He's given us, we're all kings and queens. We are in charge of our own life. He doesn't want to ever take that choice away from us. There are consequences to going the wrong way because he's the creator. He's made it in a certain way. If you're a horrible person, you'll probably have a fairly horrible life, although some horrible people seem to get away with it. But generally, if you do unto others, do good. If you generally do good, then by and large good happens to you. However, because there's a war going on, and because the devil is out and about, and because we lost our inheritance, which is this world and God's creation that he gave to us, and now Satan is in control of it. If you put your head above the parapet as a Christian or as a good, inverted commas, person, there's lots of people who want to shoot you down and undermine you and just kill you and murder you, which is happening. I think more Christians are being killed today than ever before in the history of the world. You know, so since there was Christianity. This is a very hard world for a lot of people who have faith in Jesus Christ, believing him to be God, manifest in this dimension, saying the things he did and doing the things he did, and rising again, most importantly, defeating the power of sin and death and darkness and the devil. So there we go. So, God knows our hearts. For those God foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the likeness of his Son. And those he has called, he has justified. Now, God has called everybody. You. God has called you. Reminds me of that poster from Kitchener in the First World War. Your God needs you. And your God needs you, and it's important to realize that he wants everybody, you, whoever you are, to realize that he is God, and that he wants you to be with him, not against him, and to have the right attitude towards him, to accord him the respect that he deserves as creator of the universe. But also to know that he is the most loving God, and really, really wants the best for all of us, every single one. He wants the best for us. And he's trying to refine his creation. He doesn't want to take away our free choice. He wants to retain that. He took a big risk, and a lot of people probably are not going to make it, and that's because they don't want to make it. The people, so many of us are too proud to bow the knee to God. And it's just too much. Why should we bow the knee to this man or this God who allows suffering all over the world and everything like that? It's a big discussion. But either you trust God and you look at Jesus Christ to see his heart, or you don't. I hope you do. God bless you.